Hello all, in this video we will see a recursive function in C. This question is taken from GATE CSE exam. So here is the question. Consider the following recursive C function. The function is defined. The question says that how many times will this function be invoked before returning to the main, right? So how many times this function will be called? Okay, so that is the question. Now for simplicity, let us assume that the name of this function is g. Okay, right. So the name of this function is g. Okay. Now initially we have given call to this function with parameter 6. Okay, so here you see g is called parameter 6, right? So n is 6, this condition is false, so now we call g with parameter n minus 1 and n minus 3. So the actual value of the parameter is 6, right, for this function g. What we do is we break it into calls like g of 5 and g of 3, right? N minus 1, 6 minus 1, 5, n minus 3, 6 minus 3, 3. Let us first solve for g of 3. Okay, so when n is 3, again 3 is less than 1 is false, so we call it for g of 2 and g of 0, right? 3 minus 1, 2, 3 minus 3, 0. Now let us solve for g of 0. 0 less than 1, right? 0 less than 1 is true, so we simply return. So there are no more recursive calls in this case. Okay, so that would be a leaf node in that tree. For g of 2, it would be g of negative 1 and g of 1, right? For g of negative 1, no more recursive calls because the argument is less than 1. For g of 1, we have g of negative 2 and g of 0. For g of 0, no more recursive calls. For g of negative 2, no more recursive calls. Now let's see what happens for g of 5. For g of 5, we call it like g of 4 and g of 2. Let's think for g of 4, right? For g of 4, we call it like g of 3 and g of 1, right? 4 minus 1, 3, 4 minus 3, 1. Okay. Now, one thing we know that for g of 3, how many calls we make? This is the g of 3 is already expanded over here. So for this g of 3, the number of calls would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so there are 6 more calls from the branch of g of 3. For g of 1, we have 2 more calls, right? For g of 2, we have 1, 2, 3, and 4 calls. So now we have to simply calculate how many times we call it. So this happens to be 1, this happens to be 2, this happens to be 4. Now this happens to be 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 plus 4, that's 8. Then here we have it like 6 plus 2, 8, 8 plus 2, 10. Now if you add all these values, 10 plus 8, 18, 18 plus 4, 22, 24, 25, right? So how many times the function gets called? 25 times. So the correct answer is option B, which is 25. Okay, I hope you have understood this. Thank you.